You're listening to Two Mics and a Guest, a podcast of people's stories and the career pathway that led them to where they are. And now your hosts, Michael Holliday and Mike Young. All right. Welcome, everybody. Episode 2 of Two Mics and a Guest. I am Michael Holliday. I am joined with Mr. Mike Young.
Good to be here. Glad to be here.
Mike, our guest today is none other than our very own Chris Morris. Chris, how's it going?
It's great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Chris is our let me get this right, Instructional Technology Specialist.
Yes,
is that correct?
That's correct. It's a
here,
mouthful.
Here at the Tullahoma City School System. So, Mike, introduce our guest a little bit for us.
He's a cool dude. I mean, I would say that even if you weren't here, Chris. I'm just saying, it's been good working down the hall from him. Great stories of your path to get to this gig, but he's a really nice guy, and that's part of his gig is to go in to help people with tech stuff that it's kind of a customer service thing.
That's exactly what it is.
You're employed working with our staff, obviously, but you've had an interesting route to get here, and we're going to talk about that obviously in this. But it's been good to work down the hall from you.
I agree. It's been fun.
So, born and raised in Virginia.
Yes,
that's correct.
That's correct.
What was it like growing up in Virginia?
Well, where I grew up was pretty cool. It was a Mennonite community.
Mm-hmm.
In large part where I grew up. Most of my neighbors were Mennonites, and real small town feel. But just right next door, we had Harrisonburg, Virginia, which is James Madison University. So you go from cornfields and cows to college town.
Yeah.
To
major
bars
university
and all this fun stuff. Yeah, I mean, all kinds of stuff there.
Yeah.
Which
Very
you didn't
cool.
have in my hometown.
Now, mountain. I don't know that area of Virginia. What's the landscape like?
Man, it's great. It's actually in the Shenandoah Valley.
Yeah.
I've got mountains in every direction.
Yeah.
Blue Ridge, Allegheny, Appalachian. So
Wow.
every direction you look, there's mountains.
Hiking and all that.
Yep, hiking, excellent fishing, excellent hunting, all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
And so the mountains also, I mean, you can't get away from them shortly after Virginia, right?
That's correct.
So we go from Virginia directly to Colorado?
Directly to Colorado.
All right, awesome.
Yep, Denver, right next to the Rockies.
Wow. And then you come to flatter Tennessee. I mean, we're more middle Tennessee, so we're not the most rocky or the most mountainous, but
I still find it funny that we go up on the mountain to go to Mount Eagle.
yeah,
you know,
which is like a hill for this guy.
Yeah. Well, I first heard that, I was like, well, which mountain? Because when I grew up, there's
Exactly.
mountains.
He's on top of Swanee, and he's like, when do we get to the mountain?
Yeah. Out in Colorado, they called them foothills out here. That's what they call them. Even we call it a mountain. It's a foothill.
right.
Wow.
That's the pretty much all the Appalachians.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's weird because this is the very first place I ever lived that's never had a mountain within clear view of my house.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in Colorado, it was nice because I knew it was like if I'm looking at the mountains, I'm looking west.
Yeah.
I always knew where I was,
Mm-hmm.
which direction I was facing.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Here, I turn on Jackson Street. I'm like, okay, kind of know where I'm at now.
I grew up in South Louisiana, so there was a swamp everywhere you looked. But I was excited to move to Tennessee, to Tullahoma, because I'm thinking the mountains, because what I thought of was East Tennessee. And we talked to our realtor when we got through Moore County, and he said, Tullahoma was the highest swamp in America, is the way he called it. You know, it's just a big bowl. So anyway, so what you got, tell us about school, like going from high school to moving to college, and how'd you make a decision to go to school and those kind of things?
So I was not a good high school student.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that I did not even intend on going to college afterward. Just had no desire. Neither of my parents graduated high school.
Mm-hmm.
My older brother, he didn't do so well in college, just kind of floated through.
Right.
And this
Or,
is,
high school.
and I don't mean to interrupt, but this is identical twin brother.
No, older brother.
Oh, older brother. Okay.
Sorry, I've got
Never
an
mind.
older brother who's 17 months older and an identical twin brother who's a minute older.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no,
but
it's all good.
I had brother
Does he let you
clarification.
know that he's a minute older too?
Always.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Always, yeah.
Always.
Yeah, I'm the baby.
Okay.
But yeah, so my parents, they encouraged us through school. They wanted us to do well, but college was always one of those things. If you wanted to go, cool. If not, that's great.
Right.
Wow.
So most of my life, I just thought, yeah, not going to happen. Then halfway through my senior year, I started thinking about, well, what am I going to do? And January rolls around. I've got to take my SAT because we didn't take the ACT there. We took the SAT.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, whatever. I'll just go take it. Didn't really try. Didn't really care to do well. I didn't do well. Did horrible.
Uh-huh.
I mean, probably the worst grade I ever gotten on anything. It was great.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't want to say the number.
No, you're good.
It was terrible, but
We might lose our technology specialist.
I know, right? It was really bad.
We'll just call his twin brother. I'm sure he'll tell us that.
That's what
it is.
would.
The test got swapped. You really just have your brother's test.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it is. That's exactly what it is.
Figured out. This is now a crime podcast too. We're solving crimes in here.
So even after I take that SAT and I get my score back, I still don't register for college. I registered at the very last minute, and I only applied to one college, which is Bridgewater College, my hometown school. It's 5 minutes from my parents' house. It has 1,700 students in it, super small, private school. And they accept me. And I was like, oh, well, guess I'm going to college. It was like $35,000 a year. So I spent quite a bit of money on private school. If I was smarter, I probably wouldn't have went to community college first.
Right.
Obviously, my SAT score shows you I was not smart enough to make that decision.
Now, but a little birdie tells me though that did we not do a compete in a sport in college?
Yeah, I did track in college.
Okay,
Long jump.
but not necessarily a track scholarship per se.
No, they didn't offer academic or athletic scholarships.
Okay, triple jump, right?
Triple jump and long jump.
Wow.
Yep.
Man's got hops over here.
Used to. I tried jumping over a ditch on the golf course yesterday, and it did not go well.
No. I was about to say we should not challenge him to pick up basketball, but maybe we should.
Now you should. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Now
That's
you
awesome.
should. But yeah, when I got to college, I started off as an English major,
Okay.
which, as you guys know, is very different from what I've done in the past and what I do now.
Yeah.
I learned quickly that I did not enjoy English classes.
Sure.
Then I moved to business. Didn't like business.
Right.
By, I don't know, a month into my freshman year, I'd switched to biology because I had this incredible biology 101 professor, Dr. Hensley.
Yeah.
Incredible. Just a comedian, but I learned the material. Nobody has ever taught me as good as this guy.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And from that moment on, I was biology all the way.
Wow.
And I loved it. Still do.
It's interesting. I've heard my daughter had a similar story of a class that really jumped out at her. It was a part of her major, and she ended up doing her master's in that coursework because she liked that class, and it was a teacher that made an impact on her like that. So,
And that's what teachers do, the good ones.
yeah.
They make such an impact that the student wants to do what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to me.
Very cool. And so you ended up in biology major?
Yeah, ended up in biology major. Didn't have a clue what I wanted to do with it when I decided to take that path. No idea. I love Dr. Hensley. He was incredible. I still respect him and a bunch of the other faculty members at the school.
Very cool.
But yeah, that's kind of how I went through school. I did really well in college. I ended up like going all in, like buying into it. I didn't really hang out with any other scenes except for the kids going to school.
Oh wow.
No, curious. Okay, you talked about being a bad high school student versus being a good college student. And I think a lot of kids, a lot of just people in general think I'm a bad student because of whatever they did in high school.
Sure.
And it might not necessarily translate to college. Like, what was the biggest
completely
difference for
agree.
you?
I was studying something I cared about.
Yeah.
Yep. And I knew that I was paying for it.
That's a big thing
That helps,
too,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are two of the biggest things for me.
Yeah. Just change your whole
Absolutely.
focus. Now, so that motivated you. How did your ultimately for your grades? You've got to study different, right? I mean, what you just develop new habits on those kind of
I
things?
did. So I'm a morning person. Always have been. I used to wake up at 5 o'clock every morning, go to school, and study every day.
God bless you.
Well, I'd go to bed at like 9, 10 o'clock most nights.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's my study habit was studying in the morning before classes. No one's there to bother me.
Starting your day off.
Yeah, I had all that time to myself.
I'm with you on that. That's I would take 7:30 classes because I would know I'm going to go to sleep in the afternoons. It wasn't this big thing, but I was more of a morning person, and that's kind of where I tried to do my schedule with. That's interesting. I'm kind of that way too.
I love it. I love waking up in the morning, drinking some coffee, being
Yep.
by myself.
Yep.
I mean, I definitely feel more productive when I do get up earlier. It's just it's tough sometimes, but yeah, you're mentally strong. You can do it, and starting your day off ahead of everyone else sometimes just feels like you've won the day. You know?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Got a head start.
Well, it's also interesting when you recognize that part about how you work. It it helps you be more productive. A lot of, being able to identify, I'm a morning person, owning that, and then using that to your advantage for your school,
Absolutely.
right? I mean, that was a big deal.
Yeah, and I also worked 3 or 4 days a week from about 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock.
Mm-hmm. So it was a necessity, right?
It was.
Got to get it done.
Yeah, I was a shift manager at a gas station through college. And then I switched over doing landscaping and stuff like that on the side.
Right. Very good. Very cool. So, biology major. We still haven't got you to the to a technical institutional technology specialist. I mean, that's a
that didn't happen until about 12 months ago.
So, tell me what you majored in biology, finished in biology. What happened next?
So, about halfway through my degree in biology, I actually started picking up education classes to be a teacher. But when it came time to graduate, I still had student teaching. And as expensive as the schooling was, I said, I'm not doing that.
Right.
I'm not going to do that because I can't really work and do that at the same time. It's a full-time job. So I just graduated with a degree in biology. When I graduated, I came out of college with a full-time job, hourly pay as a drilling assistant for an environmental and drilling company, which we would drill wells for residential properties that they believe have been impacted by diesel range organics or gasoline range organics, looking for pollution in people's drinking water.
Right.
Did that for about 2 years. I loved it. I did love it. And then management started to kind of fall apart. People started to get sick, and we started losing jobs, and I didn't get many hours. So I became a wastewater chemist, or whatever you want to call it, testing drinking water and wastewater for.
No, go ahead. I mean, I'm very interested in that because there's not a clear connection between biology major and testing wastewater and drilling. So that's an interesting path that you got there.
Yeah, and that was one of the benefits, the few benefits of trying to find a job in a small town. The employer's pool is small to pull from, as well as the employees' pool is small.
Right.
Makes
sense.
sense.
To choosing a job. At least that's what I've seen.
Yeah.
Unless you're closer to a larger city where people want to stay.
Right.
But yeah, I just put an application in. I guess they liked what they saw, and I started testing drinking water and wastewater. Everything from, you guys know Cargill and Purdue, those places. I would get their wastewater just full of pieces of chickens, and it would sit on my shelf sometimes for a month before I got the order to go ahead and test it.
Right.
You open that up, and it's awful. I mean, I worked on the back of a trash truck a little bit in college too, and this was worse.
I've done that in seminary, by the way.
Did you really?
I did.
I used to love it. I did. We found a box of old coins in there. We sold it to like one of those antiques collectors for a few $100.
Oh, wow.
I say we, it was my twin brother and I. I was on one side of the truck. He was on the other side of the truck.
No, I did it. I worked for the maintenance at our seminary, but I had a CDL license.
Oh, yeah?
And so when the regular trash guy couldn't drive, I would be the driver. But then some days I got to ride on the back on the side, dude. I mean, that was the thing, man.
As a kid, seeing those guys, like, oh, that's the coolest job.
Yes.
And my parents would be like, is it? I mean, I just thought it'd be cool to ride on the back of a vehicle. I didn't even think about the smells or what the job involved. But
that's funny. I mean,
it's nasty.
Yeah. I once got sprayed. My twin brother, I don't know if he did it on purpose or not, but I was standing, I just dumped the stuff. I turned around, put the trash can back, and there was stuff kind of hanging out of the back. The thing was going up, or actually still coming down. So I just put my hands in there, threw in there real quick, pulled my hands out way before it would have crushed them. Right. But I got covered in juice. I mean, my mouth, my eyes. I mean,
no thanks.
Bad.
You didn't know it was preparing you for testing Purdue chicken water.
I didn't.
You know?
Thank the Lord it did. Somebody's looking out for me, right?
Right.
Now, both of these jobs, they had you primarily in like a laboratory setting, or did you go out in the field also? Or
the drilling position, I was 100% field.
Okay.
The lab position was 100% lab.
Okay.
Yeah, I was full-time testing water in a laboratory.
White lab coat and everything, like what we see in movies?
This was more like, you ever seen the TV movie Saw?
Yeah, oh yeah.
One of those dungeons. This was not a nice lab.
Real glamorous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, there was definitely something riding a bicycle, little tricycle around somewhere. I just couldn't find it.
It's dark.
It was not glamorous. It was not glamorous. There was like no drywall in multiple places.
No windows, so you don't know what time of day it is.
Yeah, it was bad.
Oh.
It was bad. I lasted a year there. I made $9.55 an hour.
Wow.
Okay, big
With a
shot.
college degree. I know. I don't want to brag.
Not just any college degree.
Yeah.
$35,000. Yeah.
Right,
Exactly.
it's a semester or a year, whatever it was. So now that you guys know that I was rich, pretty much fresh out of college,
Yeah.
that job led me to finding a job out of state. Because I was like, you know what? I'm never going to pay my student loans off like this.
And so you said, where else are there mountains?
Where else are there mountains? That was actually part of
Really?
it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I thought, why not Denver?
Yeah.
Right? Why not? It's gorgeous.
You
out
and a
there.
whole bunch of other people too, because that place is booming, right?
When I moved there, like they were just like flies, just
Yeah.
zooming in.
Yeah.
It was crazy. But the cool thing about that.
And what year frame is this generally, you think?
2011.
Okay.
End of 2011, December.
Mm-hmm.
So the cool thing about everybody moving there when I moved there was everybody needed a friend. So I went there and I found friends so fast.
And no one's a local, right? So everyone's a
Nobody's
transplant.
local.
Yeah.
I lived with some guy I never met before. I slept on a little single mattress that he had. He let me stay there.
None of this is sketchy sounding, by the way.
No.
Although you did just come working out of a dungeon in a laboratory, so nothing's scary to you.
He's moved from a saw dungeon to Denver. That's
To sleeping with strangers in the same
great.
apartment
That's
and
moving
everything.
on up,
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
No, so I mean it was great. We're still Facebook friends, me and the guy.
That's cool.
That's cool.
But yeah, and
You know, that's something I've talked to students about before. Everybody in my wedding, I went away to college away from my hometown. Everybody in my wedding was somebody I didn't know my freshman year. But
Isn't
these
it
are
wild
these
how
are
that
some,
works?
and I had conversations with some of them last night. No lie. These are people that I did not know, and so a lot of students we can't imagine ourselves outside of where we're at right now. And it's amazing hearing that story because that's,
sure.
you know.
And even some of my closest high school friends that I swore I would have kept up with my entire life, I haven't talked to in over a decade.
Mm-hmm.
We're all guilty of it.
Yeah. And it's like, I love those memories with them, but I've
Yeah.
got friends now that are just
Well, we go on to kind of live different lives, right?
absolutely.
And unless you're kind of in the same circle, like that's us, like we all know each other because we're all in education and we're all in the same school system. And so you develop closer friendships with the people that you see more
Right.
often, I feel like.
Right.
And maybe
Absolutely.
that's a big factor in it.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I think it is.
So you're in Denver. Good job.
So
What-
I'm in Denver, and
Now, did you go for a job, or you went to Denver and looked for a job?
I landed the job before I went there,
Gotcha.
and it was garbage. It was a bad job.
Mm-hmm.
No pun intended, by the way.
Yeah,
It wasn't in
there was
garbage.
no garbage.
Okay.
involved.
But it felt like garbage, yeah.
Yeah, it's all keeps going back to the trash
I
truck. I don't know.
don't know what that is.
A lot of
We-
puns,
why.
a lot of connections here.
But yeah, I ended up landing a job with Ashford University, which is a for-profit university.
Mhm.
It was essentially a sales position where I would call the same group of people on my computer. There's a pool of about 300, 5 times a day. 5 times a day.
Wow.
And most of the times they wouldn't answer.
Did you ask if they wanted to extend their car warranty? Or?
I wish that's what I was doing.
We all know that phone
Yes,
call.
I wish that's what I was doing.
Exactly.
But so it's one of those situations where you go to a website and the little pops up that you think you have to fill out. So you put your information, your email, and it goes to a bunch of different schools and they start calling you. I was one of them. I called people so much that I had voicemails saying, if this is Chris Morris from Ashford University, stop calling me.
Oh, no.
And I couldn't stop calling them unless they verbatim said, take me off your list.
Wow.
Mm.
And they would use not nice language to me all the time.
Yeah. Advise people, if you want to get off a list,
Yeah.
just ask nicely. Can you please remove me off your list?
Uh-huh. Oh, man. I wish I could have said
Yeah,
that.
that's tough. That's a tough job.
So I lasted there for 6 months. So
Is that just not mentally draining when you leave work that day?
it was awful.
Yeah.
I mean, you would lay in bed at night just rewinding all the conversations you had that day. Sometimes I'd call the people that just wanted to talk because I knew there were some of them in there that never wanted
Yeah.
to go to school.
Like, please don't hang up on this call. I don't want to
Yeah.
call the next person.
Yes, give my call time up, please. But then after a while, they caught onto that and they cut that out.
Yeah.
So I quit and ended up working in the oil field.
Mm-hmm.
Got a fantastic job. Besides this job, I'm not even joking, it was my favorite job.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
This is my
Yeah.
new favorite job.
In the actual field? Like,
Both.
okay.
It was probably 75% field work, living on oil rigs, and 25% lab work.
And what
Now,
specifically? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I grew up an oil field brat. My parents were,
That's right.
my dad was in the oil field, my brother in the oil field. And so I understand what you're talking about. But a lot of folks don't know what that means. You just said in the field and all that. So tell us about that job. And
Yeah,
what you were
so
doing.
we were, by definition, a reservoir optimization company. That doesn't mean a whole lot to most people, but my job was getting core samples from anywhere from 1,000 feet underground to 11,000 feet underground. Some of those.
What do these core samples tell you?
They tell us the properties downhole. Is there oil? Is there all kinds of stuff?
They don't drill these wells in a random spot. They've been directed, right?
Yeah, you have geologists that have spent years researching these locations. And again, being the coring side of it, we're also the exploration side. So I'm the one proving the geologist right or wrong. The ones that put their jobs on the line by doing so. And you know all about that.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be the wrong geologist.
No.
Right.
After millions and millions of dollars.
That's exactly right.
So we would go, they'd pull out the drill string, we throw down the core and barrels, their assembly, and we'd pull out anywhere from 30 feet of core samples all the way up to over 1,000 feet of core samples. And they're this big in diameter, 6 inches, 4 inches, 5 inches.
It looks like a big rock pipe, right?
It does. It looks like a big rock PVC pipe.
Right.
And you just see all those like sediment layers, right?
That's exactly right. I found fossils from 9,000 feet deep, bigger than my thumb.
Very cool.
Yeah. So we would take it back. Most often, we'd take it back to the lab. If we were doing routine rock testing on it, we would call it RRP. And we'd run 20, 30 different tests on it in the lab. Or if we were going to stay on location and test for gas, we would do something called desorption, which was my specialty, measuring gas output from a 1 foot sample of rock over a 24-hour period of time to where you would run tests for 24 hours actively. So you weren't really sleeping.
Right.
Which is not something that happens on an oil rig.
That's right. That's right.
Not if there's money to be made, right?
Not if there's money to be made.
Exactly.
Yeah, my longest shift without sleeping is 46 hours on the job.
Wow.
I fell asleep driving to the hotel after that shift. Woke up at a stoplight.
That's super dangerous, but
no idea
crazy.
how I got there. No clue.
No, I've been there.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
I'm sure you do.
I know what you're talking about. No,
but ultimately, this was a really fun job for you, even though it's long hours and all this stuff.
So
I can imagine. It sounds cool.
Being young and single and being in good health, it was just fun.
And good money.
Yeah, it was great money. On a good year, you'd pull in over 6 figures. On a normal year, you'd pull in 80 or 90.
Right.
Not figures.
Right. But we get you. We're following.
Just kidding. But I could be sitting here right now and I can get a phone call saying, "Hey, look, fly to Poland now. Go to the airport and go to Poland." Well, when am I coming back? When the job's done.
Right. Right.
So the longest I was ever away from home was somewhere between 60 and 70 days without going home.
In one
location,
stint, but once you're there and you're doing the work.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And it's.
Can you speak on a few of the places you've been able to go to? And
sure.
Is Poland one of them?
Poland, yeah.
Okay.
So Poland, I was in Pennsylvania for 2 weeks, and they called me in Pennsylvania. This is back when I was living in Denver, and they said, "Hey, look, we need you to go to Poland." And I said, "Can I come home first so I can get some stuff, take care of the cat, pay my rent?" And they said no. So I just flew straight from Pittsburgh into Frankfurt, Germany, and then to Warsaw, Poland.
Wow.
And from there, we drove about 2 hours away to a place called Zamość.
So you obviously needed a passport to even have this job. Yeah.
Yeah, that was,
So you kind of knew ahead of time.
Yeah. So I had a passport. I went to Kenya in 2010 before I got all these things. But when I was there, show up to the location, they say, the rig's broken.
Oh, no.
So I called my boss, said, "Hey, can I stay here or do we go home?" And they called the company, which was Chevron, and they said, "Stay there."
Until it's fixed.
Until it's fixed.
Oh, boy.
And I got paid 16 hours every day, no matter what. If I worked, if I slept. I was there for 30 days before I started working. I vacationed like I've never vacationed.
A Poland expert now.
Yeah, 72 hours of overtime every week for vacationing.
Yeah, I've never vacationed and got paid $16, and I've never done that before.
Yeah.
It sounds like a good gig.
Man,
But you obviously knew you were going to be there a while because you hadn't even started work yet.
Yeah, we left over 40-some days later.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it was a blast, though.
My goodness.
It's still one of my favorite memories.
I bet.
But from there, I've been all over Canada, Saskatchewan, Alberta.
Places where there's oil.
Yeah, place where there's oil. Yeah,
Alaska?
Colombia, South America. Never went to Alaska for work, but I went there for vacation one time.
Oh. You think, because you kind of associate Alaska with oil, but
I know, right?
But
But for some
surprised.
reason, there's not a whole lot of coring operations for us. Maybe some of the other competitors had those gigs.
Yeah.
But we never went that direction. Usually we were somewhere in the continental or overseas.
Yeah. Canada, I'm sure, has quite a bit of oil, too.
Oh, yeah. The oil sands up there are pretty thick.
Lucrative, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And so, stop me if I'm getting too advanced here, but how you got from Colorado to Tullahoma is obviously meeting your now wife, correct?
Yes.
And so how long are you in Colorado before, and I've got some side notes here, you got matched up with her through a mutual friend.
Yes.
Right?
That's exactly
So how long are we in Colorado before we meet our Tullahoma connection?
So it's funny. I moved out there in December 2011.
Mm-hmm.
She moved out there in, I believe, October 2011.
Okay.
Or somewhere around those lines.
Mm-hmm.
So we moved there like right at the same time. And it wasn't until 2013 did she put you up to some numbers just to test my knowledge.
No,
okay.
I don't have
he has
number
done his
specifics.
research, you could tell.
But there's some other stuff coming, so don't you worry. I've got a few other things.
I've never been good at tests. I already got test anxiety. I can feel it.
Oh, just you wait.
No, so yeah, we moved out about the same time, and we meet in 2013. I think it was November.
You think, or we know?
It was definitely November, yeah.
We might get in trouble if we don't know the exact.
No, anniversary is where he's going to get in trouble. But go ahead.
That's true. No, I'm pretty sure it was November. And from there, we go on our first date. It's a blind date, a place called the Bicycle Cafe. There's a point for me.
There we go.
And I call her back. Guess what she does? Ignores my phone call. Just straight up ignores me.
No.
I got ghosted. Yeah.
No.
And she'll tell you this straight up. She's like, yeah, I didn't answer your call on purpose. Completely ignored you.
Wow.
I was like, okay, well, that's not going to happen.
Was the date that bad? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, did not go well.
Oh, that's cold.
Shout out Bicycle Cafe. No, I'm just
I
kidding.
know, right? Yeah, thank you. No, but eventually I called her again. She picked up. Kind of hit it off there, and ended up, doing all the skiing, snowboarding, just loving the same stuff, hiking.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. We fell in love with a lot of the same stuff that we did out there, and
You're both very outdoorsy people.
yes. Yeah, she's a snowboarder and I'm a skier, so she's obviously cooler than I am. Which, I mean,
So they say,
you
yeah.
marry up. That's obvious, right?
That's recommended highly. Marry up. Let's tell them.
And we decide to get married, and think if we're ever going to have kids, we need to be near family. And with my family on the East Coast and hers in Tennessee, there's no better place but to move, and we're at least close to one of them.
Do you know roughly when we moved to Tennessee from Colorado?
We moved here in June of 2016.
Okay. So you were in Colorado for a little while.
Yeah, we were there for about 5 years-ish.
Yeah.
And I would move back in a heartbeat.
I'm sure.
I would miss here, the friends I have here, the job I have here.
But it was awesome out there, I assume.
Oh, it was just incredible. And I might romanticize a little bit looking back.
I would move to Colorado in a heartbeat too. I think.
Yeah.
I love it.
You and hundreds of thousands of other people, like we talked about earlier. That state's booming, yeah.
You're right. Well, and the problem there was I was making really good money. She was making really good money because teachers make a lot more there than they do here. Because she was an inner city public school teacher.
Okay.
And we still couldn't afford a house.
Right.
And we're in Denver proper, correct?
Denver proper.
Okay.
Yeah. We were in, we can get to the Rocky Stadium on our bikes in 5 minutes.
Yep.
Like it was, and that's what we used to do. We used to bike everywhere or Uber everywhere. And we kind of missed that too. But dynamics change as you have kids and
Right.
And
all that fun stuff.
And you mentioned the Rockies. You kind of married into a softball and baseball family, right?
Oh, yeah.
Both Whitney and Ben
Yeah.
throwing the ball.
D1 baseball, and their dad played D1 from Mississippi State.
Yep.
Yep.
And Whitney, so she's traveled all over.
Yeah, well,
the
she
place
played
for
pro ball
softball.
in Sweden.
Correct. Yeah.
Yep.
International softball.
Yeah, I thought that was so cool.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is
Still do.
Yeah.
But
A very athletic family. And then obviously you've been outdoorsy your entire life and things like that. And sports also, triple jump,
Absolutely.
track star. So
yeah.
that's fantastic. We come to Tullahoma. And what is Chris thinking about employment when he
I was
makes
like,
it?
Can I say crap?
You can.
Okay.
Sure.
I was like, oh, crap. Because I started looking. I was like, there's nothing in the oil field.
Right.
Well, even before I moved, actually, when we got married, I quit the oil field job and moved to the environmental side of it, where I was inspecting oil.
Schedule's a little bit
batteries.
different too.
Yeah, tank batteries. Yeah, very different.
And you didn't have to travel on a
No, my daily
moment's
commute
notice?
was 3 hours in one direction, but I was home every night.
Okay.
So that was huge.
Wow.
And I came back. We moved to Tennessee, and I was trying to find something either in the oil field, in like health and safety, anything like that, where I could walk power lines or any kind of natural gas pipelines. But I wouldn't have any luck. So I talked to Miss Rose, Kathy Rose, and she got me a job.
Former principal at Tullahoma High School. Okay.
Yeah, I love her to death. She's the reason why I'm probably sitting here today.
Wow.
So I got a job as an educational assistant.
Mm-hmm.
I did that for a student that we both know very well and love.
That's how I met you, believe it or not. Yep.
That seems like forever ago, doesn't it?
So when I started in the school system, I started as an EA at a middle school, and I had a student that I worked with in special education. And then when that student transitioned from middle school to high school, Chris was actually the aide that that student was going to go work with. And so that's how I met Chris. And I was like, oh, this guy's pretty cool. And so that's how we met. So you started out and got your kind of foot in the door a little bit with education. But did you know when you took that job that you were going to go the education route altogether, or was it a means to an end at the time, or just? At
the time, it was definitely a means to the end. I didn't have any aspirations of joining the educational field at all.
You gave that up at college, right?
Yeah, I did. That's kind of my thought process was like, I'm out of luck. I don't have a degree. I don't really want to go back to school since I've already done that. But then things kind of started to fall into place. I really enjoyed working with that student, and I had the opportunity to learn from a lot of really good teachers sitting in the classes with him. So I did that for about 6 months. Then I got a call from Mike Rogley. He used to be the transportation business guy here.
Right.
Yep.
He asked me if I wanted to be a bus driver for the school system. Yeah.
I kind of forgot about that. Yeah,
it was just a little spark. That's all it was, just here and gone. But I did that. It paid a little bit more money, a lot more fluid schedule. And at that point in time, I had decided to start pursuing education.
Okay.
So right around that time, I switched that, started going to school. Dr. Lawson was nice enough to allow me to do the transition.
Former superintendent, by the way.
Yes, Dan Lawson, former superintendent. He approved for me to start the process of going to school to be a teacher under a transitionary license. So it's very different than the standard, because you actually have to be teaching to do it. So after a few months of doing that, he and Kathy Rose approved me becoming the new biology teacher at the high school.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, obviously, knowledge-wise, subject matter-wise, you're perfect for that, but you had to take some classes, I assume, on the education teaching side of it?
Yeah, I took 2 years to get my master's degree on education, curriculum, and instruction.
Right.
That's what it is.
Yep.
So I did that, loved it. I had an incredible professor up there, too.
Where's this at?
Dr. Butler, MTSU.
MTSU, okay.
Yeah, Dr. Kyle Butler. If you ever
They've
get
got a good
chance,
program.
oh, it's incredible. Oh, my gosh. I couldn't have asked for a better master's level instructor.
Awesome. And this is online, I assume, or this is in person?
This was in person.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would go up every day after school or after driving the bus.
Wow.
And go to classes. And then when I got the teaching job, I would go up every day after I taught lessons, well, twice a week, actually. I'd go up there till 9 o'clock, come home, and do the work.
Wow.
And I loved it. Yeah. I got to learn how to be a teacher by being a teacher.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
It was fun.
And you were in the classroom for a year, 2 years, 3 years?
Yeah, I taught for 4 years.
Okay.
Just almost, right at 4 years.
Okay.
Yep. And this position opened up after COVID hit, and I'd already been helping all the teachers learn how to use educational software in their classrooms and troubleshoot.
Oh, I remember at that time, because I had started roughly at THS midway through your teaching here, and I was at THS and taught for 3 years, and I remember if we had an issue with a certain software, it's like everyone's like, well, email Chris. I'm like, is he a tech person or is he just another teacher? Well, he's a teacher, but he's the guy. You ask him. So
technology is intuitive to me for the most part, especially software stuff when it comes to educational. And I'm sure it's the same for you with all this audio and video equipment.
Sure.
I completely understand that. But this just made so much more sense in my head.
Yeah.
Than trying to manage a classroom and write lesson plans, all that fun stuff, which I still get to do every once in a while, actually, like writing lesson plans when I go teach teachers certain things or do lead trainings.
Yep.
So I still get some of the really fun parts of teaching, but I do miss the students.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Here in 2 years, I will be at the point where nobody in the high school knows me except for the staff.
Oh, yeah. I won't be far from it because at this new position, it's kind of the building the relationships and meeting them and getting to know them aspect that is really awesome too.
I
agree. I love that.
I think it's interesting you bring that up, though. You in your story, you've referenced a couple of teachers that really stood out to you.
Absolutely.
Your biology professor in college, your instructor at MTSU. Seeing them relating with students, obviously, seems like that was a big deal for you.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm sure you brought that to your teaching.
Yeah,
right?
I feel like I taught in a very similar way to my undergrad biology professor.
Right.
I try to make it funny.
Yep.
Right.
But very informative and very hands-on.
Right.
That the students
You got to grab their attention somehow.
Oh, absolutely. Like I used to sometimes just sit and talk in class and just tell stories and jokes like Dean Rodenbeck,
Oh,
right.
He was great at that.
Oh, yeah. And Stephen Britton, Coach Britt.
Right.
Just go up there and talk. And the kids would just love the communication and you're building rapport with them. And that was...
And then they're ready to learn when you're
Absolutely.
doing it, right? You've got their attention and
their trust.
Trust is a big deal, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
And that's one thing I really tried to do that. And one person that I forgot to add that taught me a lot about teaching is my wife, Whitney.
That makes sense.
She is a phenomenal teacher.
Because she had already been teaching, so you had one of the best resources right there in your house.
Absolutely. I mean, she walked me through all the interview stuff. She's incredible. And whenever I would have a question, like my whole first year teaching, and even after that, I'd ask her what she would do. I would try it, and guess what?
Yep.
It would work.
Right.
This totally makes up for that questionable anniversary.
Yeah, I love you, Whitney.
Disclaimer.
Well, I think it's also an interesting theme coming through it is you had certain jobs that you like better than others, but there was no perfect job in your story so far. There's always been some kind of, you love teaching, but there's these parts that you didn't like about it. You like your job now, you miss the students. That's part of our stories, right? When we get these jobs, there's nothing perfect with it, but it's you applying what you know and who you are and your gifts and
absolutely
whatever circumstance you happen to be in, right?
No, I completely agree with you on that. And I think it's going to be the case for any job that you're going to find something that you don't like, whether it makes or breaks the job for you. It really just depends on your future with that job.
Yep.
And I see myself in this position for a very long time. I love what I do.
Yeah.
It's just
well, your position indirectly or / directly impacts these students' lives on a daily basis.
That's exactly right.
I mean, you're helping with the software that the teachers are using to get curriculum out to students and just everything, right?
Yeah, even rostering them into their programs, getting the students into the programs so that they can use them.
Right.
Just not doing it in front of them, just behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It's just interesting, and that's why I like our podcast and what we've got coming is the different paths that people took. Some people might see you as instructional technology specialist, and they're going to think, well, he majored in computers in college and was a education major and all these kind of things. But you're able to apply the things you've learned even in the oil field with what you're doing right now, right?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, we use so much technology in the oil field that was so advanced that, I would be like, I don't know. I don't want to say dumb, but it would be bad if I didn't know how to do what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
We used Excel. That was our data entry.
Right.
So I'm very knowledgeable of Excel, which I use
That's
all
a
the
software,
time, every day. And we actually use it to roster a lot of our programs. So it's a skill that I learned way back before I know that I needed to learn it for this job.
Also work ethic too. Like,
well, yeah.
So those long hours and things like that, you learn that the value of hard work is it pays off.
It does.
So once you get your piece of paper from your college, you don't have to learn anymore, right?
Yes. So actually, speaking to that right there.
Sarcasm, by the way.
Sarcasm. Sorry, sarcasm. But speaking to what you just said there about work ethic, at all of my jobs, I was never the smartest person there. Not in one of them. But I told every interview, and I upheld it too. I was like, anybody that works here, they cannot work as hard as I do.
Can't work you.
They can't. And I proved it every single time that they won't. Not that they can't, but they won't. So
that little bit of information is, if the student doesn't take anything else away from this podcast that they're listening to, that is super important, because you don't have to be the smartest at your job. You just have to want to work and get better at.
I had I majored in business and didn't really like it, by the way. I mean, that's another story, but they used to have these Fortune 500 companies would come in and interview at the college I was at. And I had one of them come speak to a finance class I was in, just a guest lecturer. And he said, I'd rather, this is his words, it's not rules to live by, but it was an interesting comment. And it goes to what you're talking about. He said, I would rather hire a liberal arts major than a finance major. And we're sitting there going, dude, we're in business, you know. He said, I want someone that's going to work hard and knows how to communicate, and I'll teach you how to do our business, right?
That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that a big deal?
That is a big deal. Because when I joined the oil field, how many wells do you think I've drilled? Zero.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
How many core tables do you think I've seen? None.
Right.
I learned that on the job.
Yeah.
What I learned before that was how to work.
Wow.
And that's
How
what
to
got you the
communicate.
job, right?
Exactly right.
Exactly.
And even still, like some of those smarter people than me, I turned out to be their leader, like their boss
Mm-hmm.
in the field.
Right.
They knew geology more than I did. They knew a lot of the science more than I did because it was geological engineering for the
Right.
most part, and I was a biology major.
Right.
But I knew how to be a leader, how to do the job, and how to lead people,
That's so important.
which are super important. Yeah.
Yeah.
The quote unquote soft skills that we talk about
Yes.
sometimes, right? I mean, that's the thing.
Yes.
And that's important too. And this is a thread going through your story that I'm hearing. You worked in college, but your work ethic for your coursework changed in college too, right? You worked just as hard doing your work for school as you did for the people paying you in your jobs, it sounded
Absolutely.
like. And that was a big deal.
Yep.
I mean, that's a long day to work, teaching and then go 45 minutes to an hour away to take college courses.
Yep.
To
Yeah, 3 to
better
4 hour
yourself.
classes.
That takes a lot out of someone.
So I'm curious, what does a institutional technology specialist do every day? What's your day look
Lord,
like?
I do. So, I mean, I don't even know it all yet, to be honest with you.
Right.
As of Monday, I've been in this job for 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
So I finally made the entire circuit of beginning of school, first break, Christmas break, all this stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
So it changes per season for me. But what I do on most days is I work on our ticketing system, and usually turns out to be working with grade books.
And the ticketing system simply is how, if there's a problem, I've turned in many tickets. I've got a tech problem that I don't know how to solve. We have professionals that do that, and we turn in our ticket, and they get assigned to your staff, right?
Yep.
So
That's
go ahead.
exactly right. So from there, if there's a ticket that pertains to my line of the work here, I'll pick it up. I'll help them. A lot of times, most times, it's gradebook. Whether Schoology or Skyward, I'm helping a teacher resolve an issue within that.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not a gradebook, it could be rostering some of our special education programs.
Okay.
Whether it's something like AimsWeb or adding students into iReady,
Right.
troubleshooting other programs.
Right.
Because we have lots of programs all the way from elementary school to the high school. A lot of them don't even intersect.
Right. Right.
So I'll do that. I just got done helping report data to the state. So I
Big
just
deal.
helped
That's
the
how we get our
person-
money.
That's
Yep.
exactly right. Yeah.
Right.
Very important.
What else here? I schedule a lot of trainings.
Oh yeah, definitely. I know, like when we're on summer break and we're getting ready to come back to school, you're in July, you're scheduling, hey, come to this workshop, or hey, come to this training, and we'll get you caught up on something new, or a refresher on something that we've been doing, or something that's rolling out. So that's really important. When you're with these tickets, you're either seeing the teacher in person, email, phone call, all the above.
In the ticketing system or in person is what we typically go with. I can do most of my job from behind my computer.
Mm-hmm.
But as you know, sitting behind a computer all day, not super appealing to most people. So it's nice to get out, go to the schools, spend time with the people, just like your students, right?
Yep.
You're going to build rapport with the people that you're working with, and because if I'm just
You're just not a ticket
name on
number,
the computer-
yeah.
exactly right. And I don't want to be that, because we have a lot of new teachers that I still don't know, and whenever I do get a first ticket from them, that's when you go introduce yourself.
Yep.
Just try to be as helpful as possible.
Makes
Very
sense.
good.
Because when I was a teacher, I always hated when technology didn't work. I hated it so much.
It slows you up.
It slows you up. And I don't want anybody to ever have to be
It's
in
all
that
good
position.
till it's not, right?
Yep.
I mean,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
the way that works.
That's a perfect
Because
quote.
in our mind, we know how it needs to go, but when it doesn't do that, we're just like, how do I pivot now? Like, this is
You're right. That's exactly right.
Right. Very cool.
This is a great interview. Chris, you've been fascinating. You've had a great story. Mike, do you have anything else for our guest?
No, it's been great.
Because I've got
that we didn't ask you about that you want to tell us about.
Man, just if you get an opportunity, take it.
Yeah,
that's a good word.
Like, I had the opportunity to move out west, and it led me all over the world.
And you took it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, put me in some dangerous situations at times.
You moved away from family and friends, like you.
I didn't know anything.
That's scary.
Yeah, it was lonely.
But exciting. Yeah.
I didn't have a car for 6 months in Colorado. I walked and rode a bike everywhere.
Wow.
But you wouldn't change a thing, would it?
Wouldn't change a thing.
Right.
I just moved out there
Take
with
the
2
leap.
suitcases full of clothes, no
Take the
bed,
leap.
nothing.
Met your wife?
Met my wife.
You know?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Lucky man.
So fantastic. Well, I actually have one more thing. Earlier in the show, we prefaced this that did I have any insider knowledge or anything that might come back to scare you? I actually found out from a special source, we can all probably take a guess who, that you are a pretty good guitar player.
No.
Oh, don't back out now.
Out on us.
Uh-oh.
I can play guitar. I'm a rhythm kind of guy though, not the lead guitar player.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, in studio, I brought from home a guitar.
Oh, Lord.
Chris, we normally play our intro music as our outro music also. Would you potentially play us something as we go out today?
Do I have to sing or just play guitar?
Well, we only have one mic in your direction, so we'll put it down by the guitar. So
I'll just play something then.
okay,
That's fine.
Fantastic. All right, we're gonna take a little tiny break. I'm gonna get him the guitar, and then we will. Chris will play us out.
That works.
All right.
Game on.
Don't you love these?
I was sitting there the whole time, wasn't it?
It was. Don't you love your wife? Look
Oh
what she
yeah,
does,
she's the
man.
best. That was fun, guys.
Now, how long you been playing?
On and off from the time I was a freshman in high school. So I am strictly
Self-taught?
acoustic. Yeah, no lessons, no guitar theory or anything or music theory.
That's the best way, man.
The pick or anything. Nice, you do it. Is this your guitar? It is my guitar. Oh, Breedlove.
Yep.
I haven't played one of these in ages.
Yep.
Do you play much?
I play a little bit.
Yeah.
Mainly chords, but all right, everybody. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, I've handed Chris a guitar. It's slightly out of frame if you're watching this on YouTube in the video version, but audio-wise, we should be able to hear it. Hopefully, we're decently in tune. I tuned it a couple days ago, so maybe we're in tune. Regular tuning, slightly out. Yeah. Nope. We're slightly out. All right. We'll blame it on humidity changes or something.
If you need to tune, go ahead. We can fix this.
We can take a mini pause.
Yeah, let's pause it.
There is a tuner built in on the top of the guitar, so
Heck yeah.
well, if there's batteries. I haven't used it in so long. Yeah.
What's it supposed to do here? It's supposed to turn green or something? Oh, it says battery.
Look at
As
you.
long as I can get it tuned to itself.
Don't you love getting surprised like this?
There it is. That's probably good. I do love getting surprised. A little sharp. As long as these two are good. There it is. That's good enough for me. I don't know what I should play.
All right, Chris. All right, we've taken another pause to tune. We're back from tuning the guitar.
Play your favorite thing, man.
Yeah. By the way, hopefully we don't get a copyright strike. So if you have your own original material, just this is some chords. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Everybody, this was episode 2 of Two Mics and a Guest, and this is Mr. Chris Morris playing some guitar. on the
Appreciate
way
you
out.
coming, man. It was great.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
good.
And Mr. Morris, take it away.
Okay.
Fantastic.